Good evening. I am here with you guys a story today, this evening. Haven't read you guys one in a while. Still reading in Anne Spengler's book, Dreams and Miracles, True Stories that were sent in to her. I know I've been saying it for a while, but if we had done it every day, we would have been done with this book by now. There's like maybe 2 or 3 stories left, I think. Alright. Today, right now, I think I might do another one after this. This depends on how long this first one is. But this story is by Bob Hartig, and he wrote in a story, a true story that happened to him, that he calls Dreams That Marked the Journey. And as always, I will start off by reading you guys the introduction. Let me mute the TV real quick. I forgot to mute the TV. I apologize. Bob Hartig is a copywriter for a large publishing company. He grew up in the Midwest and was reared in a church-going family. In junior high school, he had his first brush with the occult. It would be years of spiritual struggle before he would emerge with any kind of clarity about what he believed and where he was headed. He tells a little of this spiritual journey to highlight the significance of dreams he received at 2 very different stages in that journey. Now, we'll get into Bob's story. Believe me, I didn't go looking for the cult. It came looking for me. I was in junior high when I had my first encounter. I was a good enough kid back then, and certainly wouldn't have qualified as a rebellious teenager. In fact, an instructor in my Christian education class was the one who opened the door to evil and ushered me through it, along with several other kids. One night, we actually conducted a séance, holding hands and calling on the devil. It was an eerie experience, and one that scared most of us silly. I don't know how many nights after that I kept a Bible under my pillow, the only thing I knew that might shield me from the fear. A few years later, I landed in the middle of another unusual spiritual scene, but this time it was by choice. I had made friends with people who were involved in the cult and was interested in learning whatever they could teach me. I was 15 and hanging out at a local ashram. One of the madams was a deliverer, a divine discourse at a nearby college. As followers, we were there to listen and learn from the teaching of the guru. But as soon as the Mahatma stopped talking, a group of Jesus people began refuting his words. One of them approached me. He didn't tell me I was wrong, but simply said, "Just be very, very careful about what you're doing." For whatever reason, this man's words became like a burr inside my soul. I began to question whether I was on the right track. But then I realized there was such a thing as false light, a spiritual path that seems true but is actually deceptive. The people at the ashram told me simply to pray to the little guru in my heart, and he would guide me. But I wasn't sure, and I wanted to be sure. So I prayed to a God I did not know and asked him to reveal himself. God answered my prayer in ways that convinced me of the reality of Christ. But I didn't see why I couldn't keep smoking dope and getting drunk as I always had. I figured I could party whenever I wanted as long as I asked Jesus to save me. Then I had a dream that put things in a different light. I was 18 at the time it happened. I'd been out that night with a friend and returned home pretty well lubricated. In my dream, my friend and I were still driving down the road when I noticed to our right a cloud over the hilltops, shaped like a cross and glowing intensely. When I looked again, I saw a second glowing cloud, with a man's hand sticking out of it, pointing skyward. We continued barreling down the road in the car, and then I saw a man standing in the sky. He too was shining brightly. He didn't say anything, just stared straight at me intently. Even though I was driving in my dream, I tried to roll down the window, hoping I could squeeze through it and run toward the man in the sky. In the dream, I was laughing, though I suddenly found myself thinking, "Geez, I'm drunk. What's he going to think? Here he is just staring at me." Then I woke up. Looking back, the dream scene reminded me of the description in the book of Revelation. His eyes were like blazing fire. His feet were like brass glowing in a furnace. His face was like the sun shining in all its brilliance. Nothing before nor since has approached the brightness of that dream. To put it less eloquently, it was like looking up and seeing an iridescent light bulb in the sky. I really believe that Jesus appeared to me in that dream. It was like a preaching of the gospel. Even though it touched me deeply, the dream didn't affect my behavior right away. I was like a slow-growing seed that took root inside me. Another dream came to me several years later, after I had become more serious about my faith. This one wasn't as dramatic, but it helped encourage and guide me through a difficult time. Before I describe the dream, I should mention that years ago I developed the habit of walking along a set of railroad tracks in order to be alone with God. As I walk, I read from a pocket Bible, memorizing and meditating on Scripture. This is my outdoor sanctuary, a place where I experience God's touch. Here's what happened in my dream. I was watching a television movie about a man who was raising crops on railroad tracks. As I watched the documentary, the television set disappeared and the man on the screen began walking toward me, large as life, with fields of wheat rising behind him wherever he stepped. It was like watching Johnny Appleseed stride across country, with apple trees growing up behind him. I looked at him and said, "What's the secret of your success?" The man stared at me and replied in a gruff voice, "You just got to go out there and do it." That was it. I woke up. Before the dream, I had been questioning my fruitfulness as a Christian, wondering if my prayers were having any effect. The dream seemed to be God's way of reassuring me that the times I'd spent seeking His face, pouring my heart out to Him in prayer, had not been wasted. He wanted me to know the seeds I planted would bear fruit, and that I needed to keep on sowing and keep on watering. The dream reassured me I really was on the right track. Because of my background, I am only too aware that a person can have all kinds of spiritual experiences and still not be in a safe place. Though I hunger for the touch of God, I don't believe that dreams of supernatural experiences are always from Him. It takes wisdom to tell the difference between what comes from Him and what comes from our imagination or from evil itself. More than a supernatural experience, I hunger for the truth, because that was what has changed my life so dramatically. And that was Bob Hartig's story of what happened in his life with his spiritual dreams. He calls dreams that marked my journey. I hope you guys enjoyed Bob's story, And I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Bye, guys. God bless.